Winter, spring, summer and autumn. We've now seen all 4 seasons here at Morrigan's cottage. The chilly frosty mornings, the foggy afternoons, the stone-splitting sun that here in Ireland we don't see enough but make the absolute most of. And of course, the never-ending rain that makes the grass so green. We've seen beautiful sunsets and sunrises, stretching across the never-ending skies. And how can we forget the Atlantic storms that threaten to blow away our precariously placed roof and even managing to blow down several of our trees. It's been 1 full year here at Morrigan's cottage. Back in July 2023, I began the journey of home ownership. By September 2023, I went sale agreed on the little yellow cottage down the country lane, and by November 28th, 2023, I was the proud owner of Morrigan's cottage. This is me, recording my first video at Morrigan's cottage on November 28th. I was naive about the challenges ahead, and I was very nervous to show my face on camera and upload a video to YouTube. The plan was to get grant approval and then move in, so at this point it was weekend trips to the house only. Little did I know it would be almost a full year of this. The most important part about owning this home was bringing my fur babies, Morrigan, my little dog, and Banya, my little kitty catty, down to the house. They absolutely loved it, and I loved that I was finally able to get this for them after years of planning. Day 1, the sleeves were rolled up and scrubbing of this filthy cottage began. The hope had been the cottage would just need minor repairs and just a little bit of a clean up to make it habitable. So the next thing on my list to do was to get rid of these awful peachy yellow walls and update them with a nice fresh coat of white paint. It might not be the most glamorous of painting jobs, but it was definitely something just to make the place a little brighter than it was. My sister Eve helped the very first day, and then it was down to me to continue on my own. I'd never painted a room before, so this seemed like a fun, fresh thing to do in my very first home. The first room I concentrated on was the kitchen. With the kitchen painted, it was time to paint the presses. That's what we call the kitchen cabinets here in Ireland, just in case you're wondering. Out with the old wooden colours and in with the dark and gloomy blues. The room was big enough, so it could definitely hold a darker colour press. This has been one of my favourite parts of the renovation and redecoration process so far. Probably because it's one of the only tasks that hasn't gone completely wrong. Once the beautiful blue paint was dry, it was time to put the white laminate over the black countertops, just to help brighten up the gloomy blues a little. This was pretty tricky, but it turned out okay. With the kitchen whipped into a temporary nice state, the focus then moved on to the master bedroom. This was the beginning of discovering the problems the house would hold. first of these problems being the damp. But this wasn't discovered straight away. Instead, I had fun painting what would one day become my bedroom. Once the master bedroom was complete, it was time to paint the guest bedroom. It was so satisfying to get rid of the glaring red and yellow paint. At that time, the hope was that friends and family would start coming to stay, so having a room ready for them was so important. Little did I know, it wouldn't happen that soon. At this time, we were starting to creep into spring, and therefore time to start planning the cottage garden. This was one of the things I was most excited for. Gardening had become my COVID hobby, and I started planting my very first garden back in 2020 when I was still living in Canada. Having a large space to have a nice cottage garden was a dream I didn't think I'd realise. Using an indoor greenhouse, it was time to start all the vegetable seeds. It was also time to get the planters ready outside to test out how the first growing season of Morrigan's cottage would go. This would also mean keeping up with cutting the never-ending growing of the grass. I hadn't realised before, but 4 acres of grass is quite a lot of land to keep up with, especially when you don't have a mower, a tractor, or safe land for farmers to come in and cut. I didn't have much luck with this growing year. The house took most of my time and my focus, but I did manage to grow some delicious potatoes, which was very exciting. Another problem that emerged by the end of that summer and the start of the autumn was that the land was getting damp. Once upon a time there were French drains in the land, but now they were overgrown, clogged with mud, and would need some major work. I tried with my shovel, and it did help a little, but we will have to do some major work on these drainage sites over the next few years. Over the last year, there's been some standalone good and standalone bad moments of owning this little cottage. Who remembers the flat tire nightmare that was had on St. Patrick's Day? Or the water in the bathroom failing and having to crawl across the dark and grim attic to get to the water tank? There was a lot of hard times, scary moments, and tears over the last year. But there's also been a lot of happy moments. Fixing the broken water system with one of my best friends. The cheers we had when it started to work again. I may have no heating, but I do have high-speed internet at the cottage. A new smart meter was installed by the ESB, replacing the old one that was literally falling from the wall. Honeybees made home in the stable walls. I'm still not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. Morrigan and I also visited local monuments. We added furniture. Grew some gorgeous flowers. And most importantly, we fostered 2 puppies from Molly Moo's rescue, which led to the adoption of my family's gorgeous pup Rosie. Fostering and animal rescue and adoption is something that I hope will be a big part of Morrigan's cottage in the coming years. So it was nice to get a start on it. But the real hard work had yet to begin, and the really serious problems were yet to be found. By the end of spring, my sister was down for a visit, and we had a hunch there might be a doorway hidden in the walls between the 2 larger bedrooms. So I got to work on trying to break through. Lo and behold, there was the door, hidden away for at least the last 30 years. This then prompted me to try and find the old fireplace in the room. I can say with confidence, this is when things started to spiral. The quest for finding all the old original features began, and so did the discovery of things that maybe weren't so good. Once the old fireplace was discovered, I wanted to find the old stone walls. I had visions of a cosy bedroom, 200-year-old stone walls repointed with lime. So I got to work pulling down the old plaster. Underneath that there was a flimsy thin layer of styrofoam insulation, which is not fire safe by the way, so that's going to have to be removed all around the house. And what was underneath that? Cement. Not the old stone walls I was hoping to find. But I got back to work. At this point, all I had were hand tools for chipping away the thick layer of cement, but it was so worth it as I uncovered these beautiful stone walls. At least 200 years old and in great shape. Perfect for repointing and using as a feature wall in this room. As I was still waiting for the grant approval at this time, I pushed on with pulling down the old plaster. The walls were damp and cement was terrible for these old stone walls, so I started the mission of uncovering all of the old stone walls, getting rid of as much cement as I could. There were of course fun discoveries along the way, like the old wallpaper, these black and white tiles randomly placed beside the window, but that's where the fun ended. As I started to uncover more serious problems with these old walls. Large holes, quick fixes with concrete blocks, and most worryingly, gaping holes with stones falling down hidden behind the plasterboard. The living room walls in particular were in the worst shape. When the previous owners knocked out the window to make a doorway from the bedroom to the extension in the living room, they left the old stone walls crumbling and not properly supported. It was at this point I knew I needed to call in professional help. So after seeing them on the Camper Vibes channel and the Irish Homestead channel, I called in Desi and Francis. They came out the same week and put my mind at ease that the house wasn't going to fall down, it just needed some repair. So with the help of my amazing engineer Joe, we've built a plan of reconstruction that will be starting in January 2025. At this point, the weather was warming up, summer was creeping in, so it was prime opportunity to get outside and get some more painting done. The house itself couldn't be touched because I was still waiting for the vacancy grant to come through, but the garden walls could do with cleaning up and a lick of paint. So I took the first sunny day we'd seen in a while, put my shorts on and got to work. I chose brilliant white for the wall colours. It matched the colours of my legs, and a pale blue for the pillars and the tops. It's definitely giving Greek vibes, don't you think? This was another fun project that went right instead of wrong. So we're counting this in the fun pile, and a big improvement on how it looked before. Even the neighbours said it was looking good. And that is the best compliment you can get. At the same time that I was finding problems within the house with the walls falling down, I had also discovered a pretty big problem outside of the house. The trash pile. I hadn't noticed the trash pile before buying the house, but the neighbours had made me aware of it shortly after purchasing. It bothered them as much as it bothered me to have so much waste in such a beautiful place, right by the pond, where frogs mate in March and April. Ducks sometimes can be found in there too. So I ordered a skip. I asked my dad for some help, which thankfully he gave because I was in over my head with how much there was going to have to be done. And we got to work on clearing out this pile. What I didn't realise was just how bad it would be. Decades of human waste, scrap metal, rotting wood, tyres, car parts and a full motorbike were just some of the things we found in that pile, all in different stages of rot, and all half burnt. To say this was hell would be an understatement. This was the worst task that had been done at the cottage, and it was far from done. We filled an extra large skip and had to stop, not even halfway through the trash pile. That's something that will have to be looked at this coming year as well. Before the builders can come and renovations can really begin, I have to continue removing the old plaster and cement walls. I finally reopened the other side of the hidden doorway. I went in search of the old fireplace that should have been in this master bedroom somewhere, but unexpectedly found walls of black mould. Another problem to add to the growing list. But I wasn't about to give up on finding this room's old charm from 200 years ago. So I got cracking on removing the rest of the plaster from the room. Most of it was damp and mouldy. Until finally, and surprisingly, the fireplace outline was found in the gable wall. Not what I was expecting. The next big question: are the fireplace and stone walls sound? As I removed the cement and dust from the walls, it became more and more obvious that at last we'd found an original feature that hadn't been destroyed by time or modern mistakes. As we got into October, and the weather began to get cold again, and the 1-year mark of owning Morrigan's cottage was looming, I still had no news on the grant that I had applied for 6 months previous. No news on the grant meant that almost a year in, I still couldn't stay overnight or move into my home. Nor could I hire builders or get any renovation work started. I was getting anxious and worried that it would never happen. But on Halloween, finally, the grant officer came and Morrigan's cottage was approved for the vacancy grant. Looking back now, it's hard to believe just how much work I got done in the last 12 months. The house is no further along than when I bought it. If anything, we've taken a few steps back. But it's all been a part of building a plan for this home for the next 200 years. I'm pretty impressed by what I've done, removing plaster and cement from the old stone walls, repainting the kitchen, repainting the outside wall, getting the garden set up for another year of growing, learning to drive on these twisty-turny old country roads. I've learned new skills, and I've learned a lot about how tough I can be when I need to be, and what I can get done if I put my mind to it. It's been a very successful, if not stressful, first year here at Morrigan's Cottage, but I'm so happy to be on this journey. I'm looking forward to handing the cottage over to the builders' very capable hands and getting them big things done. New roof, new walls, heating, electrics and plumbing. To have these done will make a huge improvement to the house, and then I can come in and start to paint, floor and in general decorate and do the fun stuff. With the cottage in better shape, I'll be in a position to move in full time. And with that, I'm hoping I can start adding new furry friends, and I don't mean the mice. I hope to start fostering with my local rescue. I'd also like to take in rescue hens, and with time, rescue farm animals such as pigs, goats, and most excitingly, donkeys. I hope to grow a wonderful cottage garden, and I hope to become a productive member of my new community that's been so welcoming and kind to me. Before signing off the first year of Morrigan's Cottage, I want to say thank you to everyone who has watched, commented and given their support. YouTube has helped me find an engineer to plan my rebuild, builders to come do the work, and new online friends around the world. Morrigan, Bonya and I feel very lucky to have found this community. And I can't wait to show you what year 2 at Morrigan's Cottage will bring. Cheers.